Mukunda Goswami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajikacharya Stotara Sata Shri Srimad Pange Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Navadip ki jai. Shri Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Shri Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Harinama Shama Kirtana ki jai. Shri Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Shri Shri Nityananda Trayodasi ki jai. Shri Shri Nityananda Trayodasi ki jai. Shri Shri Nityananda Trayodasi ki jai. Shamaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Narayam Namaskritam Naram Shaivam Narotamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudira Nasta Parayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashlokir Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. This morning I'm going to be reading from this book. It's one of the only books that has purports by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, translated into English. They're from his Bengali translations. So this is a famous Caitanya Bhagavata is the book by Vrindavan Das Thakur, and this is one chapter devoted to Nityananda called the Nityananda's Childhood Pastimes and Travels to Holy Places. So the introduction reads as follows. This chapter describes the various dramas related to Sri Krishna, Rama, and Vamana that Srimad Nityananda Prabhu enacted up to his 12th year and his subsequent travel to the holy places up to the age of 20. In the order of Sri Gaura Krishna, Sri Anantadeva personally appeared in the village of Ekachakra, in the district of Radhadesh, from the womb of Padmavati, the wife of Hadai Ojha, or Hadai Pandit. As Sri Nityananda Chandra. In the wake of his appearance, all the prevalent inauspicious symptoms were totally uprooted. In his childhood pastimes, Srimad Nityananda Prabhu and his associated childhood friends remained engaged in imitating various pastimes of Lord Krishna. Sometimes he and his friends would form the assembly of the demigods, and someone dressed as Mother Earth, burdened by the atrocities of the demons, would come before that assembly and offer prayers. At that time, Srimad Nityananda Prabhu and the boys who were part of that assembly would go to the bank of a river and pray to Lord Kshirodakshai. Thereafter, a boy acting as Kshirodakshai would announce from a hidden place, quote, "I will soon appear in Mathura Gokula in order to diminish the burden of the earth," unquote. At other times, they imitated the various Dvapara pastimes of Krishna, like the marriage of Vasudeva and Devaki, and the birth of Krishna in the prison cell. Vasudeva is taking Krishna to the house of Nanda, Vasudeva's return, Mahamaya, the daughter of Yashoda, the killing of Putana, the breaking of Shakata, Krishna stealing butter and milk from the house of the cowherds, the killing of Denuka, Aga, and Bakasura, tending the cows, lifting Govardhan, stealing the gopis' clothes, Krishna bestowing mercy on the wives of the sacrificial Brahmins, Narada's giving advice to Kamsa in a secluded place, and the killing of the elephant Kubalaya, the wrestlers Chanura and Mushtika and Kamsa. Just so you know, that's about a 90-word sentence. Sometimes in the form of Vamana, he received Bali, deceived Bali. Sometimes while enacting the pastimes of Rama, he would gather his friends to form an army of monkey soldiers and build a bridge. He would personally play the role of Lakshman and approach Sugriva with bow and arrows in his hands in the form of Rama. He would diminish the pride of Parasurama, and while enacting the killing of Indrajit, he would fall unconscious in the mood of Lakshman, having been hit by Indrajit's powerful arrow, until Hanuman brought medicine under his previous directions and revived him. In this way, he exhibited pastimes of the various incarnations of the Lord. In this way, Srimad Nityananda Prabhu engaged in enacting various pastimes up to the age of 12. Thereafter, on the pretext of purifying himself, he traveled to the holy places of Aryavarta and Dakshinatya up to the age of 20. Thereafter, he proceeded to Setu Bandha, Dhanustirtha, Mayapuri, Avanti, Godavari, Jayada Nrsimha, Devapuri, Trimala, Kurmakshetra, and many other holy places before arriving in Nilachala. At Nilachala, he saw Sri Jagannath Deva, the source of the Chatur Vyuha, and became overwhelmed in ecstasy. From Sri Kshetra, he returned to Sri Mathura. This chapter ends with an explanation of why he did not exhibit the pastime of distributing the holy names and love of God at that time, and the glorification of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is non-different from the omnipotent Baladev. So I will read these texts, not the Bengali transliteration, just the number of the text, the translation, and the ones that have purports by Bhaktisiddhanta. I'll read those purports as well. Not all of the verses have purports. Text 1. All glories to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who is an ocean of mercy. And this is Vrindavan Das Thakur's writing mostly. All glories to Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is the friend of those who are ignorant of the goal of life. By the way, this book in 7 volumes is a little difficult to obtain. We had to get it from India. I don't know if you can, I mean, supposedly you can get it in Radhadesh, but the bookstore here doesn't have it, and it's not too easy to find. Text 2. All glories to He who is the life, wealth, and soul of Advaita Chandra. All glories to He who is the shelter of Srivas and Gadadhar. Text 3. All glories to Lord Vishwambar, the son of Sachi and Jagannath. All glories to the devotees who are the beloved associates of the Lord. Text 4. On the order of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Anantadev had already appeared in Radhadesh and was engaged in various pastimes. Purport. And these purports are all by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Purport. In this connection, and it's very technical because he is considered like a walking encyclopedia, and a lot of it is just synonyms of various Bengali words that he's just memorized, because he could read a whole dictionary and remembered the whole thing, what to speak of encyclopedias. In this connection, one should refer to the Adi Kanda, chapter 2, verses 31, 38 to 40, and 228 to 230. The word Lilaya means, quote, by manifesting his own eternal transcendental pastimes in this material world. He's sometimes giving references to the Bengali words that I'm not speaking, but that's what it is. The text in this book has all of the Bengali, and it's followed by the translations. It doesn't have a word for word. Quote, by manifesting his own eternal transcendental pastimes in this material world, end quote. Or in other words, quote, by his own sweet will, unquote. Text 5. His father's name was Hadai Ojaha, and his mother was Padmavati. Sri Nityananda Prabhu appeared in the village of Ekachakra as the Lord of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Purport. The surname Ojaha is a corruption of the name Upadhyaya, which is used by the Matila Brahmins. For descriptions of Hadai Pandit and Padmavati, one may refer to Adi Kanda, chapter 2, verse 39. For a description of Ekachakra, one may refer to Adi Kanda, chapter 2, verse 38. The word Gaudeshvara refers to Nityananda Prabhu, who is the Lord and Master of the Gaudiyas. Sri Nityananda Prabhu destroys the living entities anarthas, or unwanted things, and awards to the Gaudiyas the supreme destination of service in pure transcendental rasas of the Vatsalya, Sakya, and Dasya. The word Yati refers to Maureshvara Yati. The village of Maureshvara, or Mayureshvara, was a famous trade center for silk cocoons and silk thread. In some person's opinion, this place was famous for its Shiva Linga. Another reading for the word of Yati is Tati, which is derived from the word Tata, or Tataya, meaning, quote, there, unquote, and is commonly used in ancient Bengali prose. So many of you have en route to Mayapur driven past or through Ekachakra, and you've probably noticed there are a lot of dyed yarns hanging on wires. They're famous for that, and it's mentioned here that they're famous for their silks and silk cocoons. That's one of the things that they're famous for. Of course, they're more famous for being the birthplace of Lord Nityananda. Text 6. From his childhood, Lord Nityananda was sober, intelligent, and the abode of all good qualities. His charming loveliness defeated that of millions of cupids. Text 7. The entire district of Radhadesh was filled with auspiciousness and devoid of famine and poverty from the time of his birth. Purport. One should refer to Adi Kanda, chapter 2, verse 133, and Adi Kanda, chapter 4, verses 47 to 48. On the appearance of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, the absence of kirtan and destitution in the form of materialistic pride were destroyed, and the chanting of Krishna's holy names and the propensity for his service were awakened in the hearts of people. Text 8. The day that Lord Gaurachandra appeared in Navadvip, in Radhadesh, Lord Nityananda roared loudly. Text 9. His roar spread throughout innumerable universes, and people of the entire world were practically rendered unconscious. Text 10. Some people said it was a thunderbolt, while others thought it was a great calamity. Text 11. Other people said, quote, we know the cause. It was the loud roaring of Nityananda Goswami, the Lord of the Gaudiyas, end quote. The word Gaudeshvara Gosani is explained as follows. Damodar Svarupa, Mahaprabhu's Vitiya Svarupa, or second form, along with his two friends, Rupa and Sanatan, were the proprietors of service to Krishna in the conjugal rasa. They are also Gaudeshvara, or Gaudeshvara, or Gaudiyeshvara. That is why Nityananda Prabhu has been properly addressed as Godeshwara Goswami. Text 12. In this way, people had different opinions about what had happened, but no one could recognize Lord Nityananda due to the influence of his illusory energy. Purport. The word Maya refers to the influence of the illusory external energy of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is non-different from Sri Baladev, the source of all Vishnu expansions, which bewilders the marginal living entities. Those who are under the control of the covering and throwing propensities of Lord Vishnu's illusory energy cannot understand the truth regarding Sri Nityananda. Some illusioned living entities say that Sri Nityananda Prabhu was a Maitila Brahmana. Some say that he married into the house of Bengali Radha Brahmanas. And others say that he was born in a low-class family. By such deceptive propositions created by Maya, the truths regarding Sri Nityananda are not understood. Moreover, others who are controlled by material intelligence also say that the seminal descendants of Nityananda Prabhu's son, Virabhadra, are as powerful as Sri Nityananda, and therefore on the basis of their seminal birth, they are on the same level as the Supreme Lord. If this were the fact, then why did this line come under the control of materialistic, fruitive smartas who are engaged in enjoying the fruits of temporary activities? Yet others say that the three sons of Virabhadra were simply his disciples because their sons were born in the village of Barudigain and Batavyal-Igain, and therefore by worldly consideration they cannot be considered seminal sons of Virabhadra. Persons with material conceptions, being covered and thrown by the illusory external energy of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, endeavor to establish a mundane relationship with him. Such people try to include and count Nityananda Prabhu among the conditioned living entities, and thus invite severe offense. This is Sri Nityananda Baladev's mysterious pastime of deceiving the demons. Text 13. Nityananda remained hidden as he enjoyed childhood pastimes with other children. Text 14. The pastimes that the Lord enjoyed with his childhood friends were all related to the activities of Lord Krishna. Purport. While Sri Nityananda Ram Prabhu sported with his boyfriends, they would enact the pastimes of Gokula, Mathura, and Dvarka. In this way, he fulfilled the desires and assisted in the pastimes of his Lord, Sri Gaura Krishna. Texts 15 to 17. He and his friends formed an assembly of demigods, and one of them, acting as Mother Earth, offered prayers to them. Then they led Mother Earth to the riverbank, and the children all began to offer prayers. Then one of the boys, hidden from view, loudly declared, quote, "I will soon take birth in Mathura Gokula," unquote. The word Deva Sabha refers to the assembly of demigods known as Sudharma. The word Nadi Tire means, quote, "on the ocean of the milk ocean, on the shore of the milk ocean," unquote. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.1.17 to 23, Sri Sukadeva Goswami speaks to Maharaj Parikshit as follows, quote, "Once when Mother Earth was overburdened by hundreds of thousands of military phalanxes of various conceited demons dressed like kings, she approached Lord Brahma for relief. Mother Earth assumed the form of a cow. Very much distressed, with tears in her eyes, she appeared before Lord Brahma and told him about her misfortune. I think there was an unquote missing in there somewhere. Thereafter, having heard of the distress of her Mother Earth, Lord Brahma, with Mother Earth, Lord Shiva, and all the other demigods, approached the shore of the ocean of milk. After reaching the shore of the ocean of milk, the demigods worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the Master of the whole universe, the supreme goal of all gods, who provides for everyone and diminishes everyone's suffering. With great attention, they worshipped Lord Vishnu, who lies on the ocean of milk, by reciting the Vedic mantras known as the Purusha Shukta. While in trance, Lord Brahma heard the words of Lord Vishnu vibrating in the sky. Thus he told the demigods, quote, "O demigods, hear from me the order of Kshirodakshai Vishnu, the Supreme Person, and execute it attentively without delay," unquote. Lord Brahma informed the demigods, quote, "Before we submitted our petition to the Lord, he was already aware of the distress on earth. Consequently, for as long as the Lord moves on earth to diminish its burden by his potency in the form of time, all of you demigods should appear through plenary portions as sons and grandsons of the family of the Yadus. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who has full potency, will personally appear as a son of Vasudeva," unquote. Text 18. One evening, the Lord and his friends enacted the marriage of Vasudeva and Devaki. Text 19. Then, late one night, while everyone slept, they made a prison and enacted the birth of Lord Krishna. Purport. The phrase Krishna Janma Karayena, quote, enacted the birth of Lord Krishna, unquote, is elaborated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.3.8 as follows, quote, "Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who is situated in the core of everyone's heart, appeared from the heart of Devaki in the dense darkness of night, like the full moon rising on the eastern horizon, because Devaki was the same category as Sri Krishna," unquote. The phrase Kehi Nahi Jage, quote, "while everyone slept," unquote, is explained in the following passage of Srimad Bhagavatam 10.3.48. Quote, "By the influence of Yoga Maya, all the doorkeepers fell fast asleep, their senses unable to work, and other inhabitants of the house also fell deeply asleep," unquote. Text 20. "They created a Gokula, and Krishna was taken there and exchanged with Mahamaya, thereby tricking King Kamsa." Purport. The pastimes mentioned in this verse are described as in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.3.51 to 52 as follows, quote, "When Vasudeva reached the house of Nanda Maharaj, he saw that all the cowherd men were fast asleep. Thus he placed his own son on the bed of Yashoda, picked up her daughter, an expansion of Yogamaya, and then returned to his residence, the prison house of Kamsa. Vasudeva placed the female child on the bed of Devaki, bound his legs with the iron shackles, and thus remained there as before," unquote. The word Dila Laya, quote, "gave and look," end quote, refer to the point of view of Yashoda, the resident of Raj. In this drama, the child playing Yashoda gave the child playing Mahamaya to the child playing Vasudeva, and thus took the child playing Krishna from him. Another reading of this verse is Laya Diya, quote, "took and gave," end quote, which would then refer to the point of view of Vasudeva, the resident of Mathura prison. In that case, the child playing Vasudeva took the child playing Mahamaya from the child playing Vyasoda and gave the child playing Krishna to her. Text 21. Another time, they dressed someone as Putana, and someone climbed on her chest to suck her breast. Purport. Regarding Krishna's drinking milk from Putana's breast, the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.6.10 states, quote, "On that very spot, the fiercely dangerous Rakshasi, Putana, took Krishna on her lap and pushed her breast into his mouth. The nipple of her breast was smeared with a dangerous, immediately effective poison. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, becoming very angry at her, took hold of her breast, squeezed it very hard with both hands, and sucked out both the poison and her life." Text 22. One day, Nityananda and his boyfriends made a shakata, or handcart, out of reeds and then broke it. Purport. The word nalakadhi refers to a type of tall grass in the form of hard, hollow sticks, also known as reeds. Breaking the handcart is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.7.7 to 8 as follows, quote, Lord Sri Krishna was lying down underneath the handcart in one corner of the courtyard, and although his little legs were as soft as leaves, when he struck the cart with his legs, it turned over violently and collapsed. Text 23. Another day, the Lord and his friends stole from the houses of the neighboring cowherd men. Purport. The word Goyala comes from the word Goala, which is a corruption of the Sanskrit word Gopala, regarding Krishna stealing butter from the houses of the cowherd men in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.29. The gopis complain to Mother Yashoda about Krishna in the following words: Steyam svadvati ata dadipaya kalpitai steya yogai. Quote, sometimes he devises some process by which he steals palatable curd, butter, and milk, which he then eats and drinks. Unquote. Text 24. The boys never left Nityananda's association to go home, but continued sporting with him day and night. I'll just read as much as we have time for, and then we'll maybe continue it on Saturday. Text 25. The children's parents did not complain, rather they would affectionately embrace Nityananda. Text 26. They said, "We have never seen such transcendental sports. How does the child know so many of Krishna's pastimes?" Question mark. One day the Lord made snakes out of leaves, and then he took his friends to the water. Purport. In this verse, the word Nagagana refers to the replicas of Kaliya and other serpents, and the word Jale refers to the water of the lake within the Yamuna. Text 28. One of them jumped into the water and remained there inert. Later, the Lord brought him back to consciousness. Purport. This pastime is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.15.47-52 as follows. Quote, once, surrounded by his boyfriends, Krishna went without Balaram to the Yamuna River, where the cows and cowherd boys became afflicted by thirst and were feeling acute distress from the glaring summer sun. When they drank the water of the Yamuna River that had been contaminated by the serpent's poison, all the cows and boys lost their consciousness and fell lifeless at the water's edge. At that time, Lord Krishna, the master of all masters of mystic potency, felt compassion for them and immediately brought them back to life by showering his nectarian glance upon them. Text 29. Another day, the Lord and his friends went to Talavan, where they killed Dhenukasura and then ate tala fruits. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.15.21, Talavan is described as Sumad Vanam Talali Sankulam, quote, a very great forest filled with rows of palm trees, unquote. The words Dhenuka Martya means, quote, by killing the demon Dhenuka, end quote. This pastime is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.15.32 as follows, quote, Lord Balaram and Dhenuka, by his hooves, whirled him about with one hand and threw him onto the top of the palm tree. This violent wheeling motion killed the demon, unquote. Text 30. Nityananda and his childhood friends went into the fields and enjoyed various pastimes such as killing Bakasura, Agasura, and Vatrasura. Purport. Regarding Goste Nana Krida, quote, various pastimes in the pasturing fields, unquote, the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.11.39-40 states, quote, sometimes Krishna and Balaram would play on their flutes. Sometimes they would throw ropes and stones devised for getting fruits from the trees. Sometimes they would throw only stones, and sometimes, their ankle bells tinkling, they would play football with them. Football with fruits like bile and amalaki. Sometimes they would cover themselves with blankets and imitate cows and bulls and fight with one another, roaring loudly, and sometimes they would imitate the voices of animals. The killing of Bakasura is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.11.51 as follows, quote, when Krishna, the leader of the Vaishnavas, saw that the demon Bakasura the friend of Kamsa, was endeavoring to attack him with his arms, he captured the demon by the two halves of his beak, and, in the presence of all cowherd boys, Krishna very easily bifurcated him, as a child splits a blade of virana grass. By thus killing the demon, Krishna very much pleased the denizens of heaven, unquote. The killing of Bakasura is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.12.30-31 as follows, quote, "When the invincible Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna heard the demigods crying, 'Alas, alas!' from behind the clouds, he immediately enlarged himself within the demon's throat, just to save himself and the cowherd boys. His own association from the demon who wished to smash them. Then, because Krishna had increased the size of his body, the demon extended his own body to a very large size. Nonetheless, his breathing stopped. He suffocated and his eyes rolled here and there and popped out. The demon's life air, however, could not pass through any outlet, and therefore it finally burst out through a hole in the top of the demon's head." End quote. Well, the killing of Bakasura is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.11.43 as follows, quote, "Therefore Sri Krishna caught the demon by the hind legs and tail, twirled the demon's whole body very strongly until the demon was dead, and threw him into the top of Kapita tree, which then fell down along with the body of the demon, who had assumed a great form," unquote. Text 31. In the afternoon, the Lord and his associates returned home, blowing buffalo horns. Purport. The musical instrument Shringa is made from a horn and is called Singa or Visana. Baite comes from the word Baya, which is a corruption of the word Vadana, which is a corruption of the Sanskrit verb Vadi. Text 32. One day they enjoyed the pastimes of lifting Govardhan Hill, and on another day they created a Vrindavan, wherein they enjoyed various sports. Purport. The phrase Govardhana Dara Lila, quote, lifting Govardhan Hill, unquote, is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.25.19 as follows, quote, "Lord Krishna picked up Govardhan Hill with one hand and held it aloft just as easily as a child holds up an umbrella." The word Rachi means, quote, created, end quote. Text 33. One day they enacted Krishna's pastime of stealing the gopis' clothes, and another day they enacted his meeting the wives of the Brahmins. Purport. Regarding Gopira Vasana Harana, quote, stealing the gopis' clothes, unquote, one should see Srimad Bhagavatam 10.22.1-28. Regarding Yagyapatni Darshana, quote, meeting the wives of the Brahmins, end quote, one should see Srimad Bhagavatam 10.23.18-32, text 34. On one occasion, a boy dressed as Nityananda with a beard gave Kamsa some confidential information. Purport. The word kachaye is derived from the Hindu word kacha, or from the word kacha, which is derived from the Sanskrit verb kach, meaning, quote, tie, unquote, tie. Kacha is used to indicate a person dressing as another person, or a fictitious character, as in a drama, or, in other words, depicting a pastime, sporting, joking, or dancing. The word dadi comes from the Sanskrit word dadhi, which means, quote, heard, unquote. Previously, when someone played the part of Narada Muni, he would wear a white beard, and this practice is still current. Following this tradition, pictures are also made in the same way. Kangsastane, Narada Deva, parentheses in parentheses, mantra, quote, Narada's advice to Kamsa, unquote, is found in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.36.17. After Kamsa's demoniac friends were killed, Narada one day went before Kamsa and spoke as follows, quote, Yashoda's child was actually a daughter, and Krishna is the son of Devaki. Also, Rama is the son of Rohini. Out of fear, Vasudeva entrusted Krishna and Balaram to his friend Nanda Maharaj, and it is these two boys who have killed your men, unquote. The word mantra refers to a confidential presentation related to a deity or a negotiation, a political deliberation, an argument, or a secret council. Text 33. Another day, one boy dressed as a Krura and took Krishna and Balaram to Krishna's capital. Purport. Regarding Akrura's bringing Balaram and Krishna to Mathura on the order of Kamsa, the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.36.30 and 37 states, please go to Nanda's village, where the two sons of Akanda, Dubi, are living, and without delay, bring them here on this chariot. Now that you understand my intentions, please go at once and bring Krishna and Balaram to watch the bow sacrifice and see the opulence of the Yadu's capital. Unquote. And in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.38.1, quote, after passing the night in the capital of Mathura, the high-minded Akrura mounted his chariot and set off for the cowherd village of Nanda Maharaj, unquote. Text 36. As Nityananda cried in the mood of the gopis, it appeared to his friends that a river was flowing from his eyes. Purport. Regarding the phrase Gopi Bhave Krandana, quote, crying in the mood of the gopis, unquote, one should refer to Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto chapters 30 and 31. The words Nadi Vahi indicate that tears flowed from his eyes like a river. Text 37. Due to the influence of Vishnu's illusory energy, no one could recognize Nityananda as he enjoyed pastimes with his friends. Purport. The word lakite comes from the word laka, used in ancient Bengali poems, which is derived from the Sanskrit verb laksha, meaning, quote, to watch, unquote, or, quote, to see, unquote. Text 38. The children arranged a city of Mathura and then wandered through the streets. Someone played the role of a gardener, and someone accepted a flower garland from him. Text 39. Someone dressed as Kubja and sandalwood pulp was accepted from her. Uttered in joy when it was broken. Madhupuri, Mathura, was previously the residence of the demon Madhu and his son Lavanasura, who was killed by Shatrughna in Treta Yuga. The words Kubjara Stane Ganda Pade, quote, accepting sandalwood pulp from Kubja, end quote, are explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.42.34 as follows. Quote, Kubja said, who else but you two deserve my sandalwood pulp? Saying this, Kubja smeared generous amounts of sandalwood pulp on both Krishna and Balaram, unquote. The meaning of the second line of this verse is found in the following words from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.42, 17 to 18. Easily lifting the bow with his left hand, Lord Krishna strung it in a fraction of a second as the king's guards looked on. He then powerfully pulled the string and snapped the bow in half, just as an excited elephant might break a stalk of sugar cane. The sound of the bow's breaking filled the earth and sky in all directions. Upon hearing it, Kamsa was struck with terror. I think we'll have to end here. So this goes on for about 40 more pages. And I'll give the book to who's ever going to be speaking on Saturday, which is the official celebration of Nityananda Trayodasi. So thank you very much. Any comments or questions? I have to end here. Hare Krishna. Sri Nityananda Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.